there. You're listening to another episode of I Love This, You Should Too, a podcast with me, Samantha Hees, and him, Indy Randawa. How are you, Indy?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Just living life. And how are you?
What?
I never know how to answer.
Sorry.
You'd think out of all the things I'm always prepared to talk about. How are you? I never have a good answer. Because after all, what is life more than something that we are all both simultaneously blessed and cursed with?
Oh, I was going to go with a flat circle, but...
Life is a flat circle?
Sometimes.
Huh. You're really giving me something to think about there.
You think about that after the podcast.
How are you doing, Samantha?
I'm good. I'm having a great day, actually.
Because you got new products.
I got new Apple products, and I saved $40 a month.
There you go.
I'm feeling like I'm being a good adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the second biggest division in our household, is you being Apple-based and me being everything else.
It's true. It's very true. I still use like PC for work and everything.
What do you think the first biggest division in this household is?
Our diets.
Oh, yeah. No, but I do all the cooking, so you have to eat healthy. At least when I'm around.
I do like it.
I was going to say support of the monarchy.
Oh, I didn't realize we were going there today.
You love them, I hate them. Or our feelings on cilantro.
Oh, cilantro.
That's a hard difference between us. So good.
So gross.
In the right places.
So, Indy, it's your week to pick a movie. So we'll start with your thing of the week.
All right. Well, my thing of the week is the 1957 Audrey Hepburn, Fred Astaire classic, Funny Face.
Ah, your Instagram today gave this away.
I was watching Funny Face because, again, I didn't have a new show that I've been watching or a new movie that I saw recently. So I went and watched something that I thought I loved from a long time ago, and yeah, it's still pretty great. Have you seen Funny Face?
I have, but many, many years ago, when I was first getting into Audrey Hepburn. I think I watched pretty much all of her movies that I could find, that I could rent from the movie studio.
Right. I think I own everything she's done.
Do you?
Except for, like, what was that one? Blueberry Hill Gang? She has, like, a cameo.
I don't think I ever watched that.
And Always I Don't Own.
I rented them as a young adolescent, I guess. And I do not remember much of it, though. Tell me about it.
This week, because I think you were upset of how much I didn't love A Simple Favor as much as you. So I'm allowing that film to influence both of my picks.
Oh.
But I'm splitting it in two because that film had a lot of influence from two very different places. Mm-hmm. So first, we're going to go with the fun fashion aspect and go into Funny Face. Mm-hmm. Because when you were talking about how you love the fashion of films, and I was like, I don't pay attention to that. And I was like, oh, no, wait, I do. It's just not as much in contemporary films.
Right.
I don't. But when I think of a movie that has great fashion, my first thought is Funny Face. So the plot is not great. It's nothing special. Fred Astaire is a photographer. Kay Thompson is a fashion magazine editor, and they go and ruin Audrey Hepburn's bookstore, and then they're like, wait a minute, you might be pretty. Come be a model in Paris. So she's like, all right, because she's like all beatniky and wants to go to the cafes and discuss philosophy in Paris. So she goes along with them, has a good time. Of course, Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn are going to fall in love. I guess that's a spoiler, but I think if you're going into a 50s musical with two people like that, you know what's going to happen.
I feel like starring Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn, I feel like there's going to be a romantic love story.
Film.
Yeah. That's not really a spoiler for me.
So there's nothing much to the plot, but of course this movie isn't about the plot. It's about the style, the singing, and the dancing.
Oh.
And there's so much style to it. It kind of exemplifies those late 50s, early 60s Technicolor musicals where everything is bright, there's coordinated outfits, the sets are really extravagant. There's even one song early in the film where it's people in their bright outfits on an all-white background. Like, it's not even in the actual world. They kind of take that outside of that, which was a popular thing in the 50s.
Oh, that's neat.
And the songs are done by George and Ira Gershwin, who I'm sure lots of people love.
Love a Gershwin.
There's a lot of great songs and dances that I love in this one. There's a Bonjour Paris, where they all go to Paris, and the three of them are going to different landmarks throughout the city, singing their songs, and of course they all come together at the Eiffel Tower and sing together. And it is shot on location in Paris, and you can tell because they really make a point of using the city to great effect. Another really popular number that I think a lot of people have probably seen pictures of, but you might not even know what it is. It's when Audrey Hepburn is dancing and she's doing a more avant-garde modern dance in this beatnik bar in Paris, and she's wearing that all black outfit with just the white socks is all you can see, and she's doing a modern dance, which you don't get to see very much in these types of things. But then you get things like more soft focus classic dance number with Astaire and Hepburn, and she's wearing a wedding dress at this point, and it's in front of a pond, and there's swans in the background, so they really lock into a slightly different style on each
lovely.
one of the numbers. So there's a good bit of variety, even though it is a like a late 50s musical. Mm-hmm. And I think this movie just does such a great job at kind of being the pinnacle of those types of films. I don't think it's as good as like Singing in the Rain or something like that, but the style of this, it's just beautiful to look at. If you want to look at the cinematography, you got that. If, like you're really into the fashion, there's a lot of great pieces. I'm not sure if she's being outfitted by Givenchy like she normally is.
I thought that was like her contract thing.
Yeah, but that wasn't in place right at the beginning of her career. And this is kind of a mid Audrey Hepburn career. So you have like your earlier stuff like Roman Holiday where she really breaks out, and later she gets into some more dramatic, mature roles like your Breakfast at Tiffany's. And I think this is kind of right in the middle of those ones.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it wasn't Givenchy.
I'm sure someone out there knows.
Someone's yelling into their phone going, It was Givenchy! It was always Givenchy!
So like always, Fred Astaire is great. He's charming and funny, and he's a great dancer and a fine singer. And that sounds like a slight, but like he's a better dancer than a singer. Kay Thompson is great. I didn't know much of hers because she does a lot of behind the scenes music stuff as well, and she's a singer, but I don't recognize her. I'm sure she has been in like 500 movies, but I didn't know her as well.
Yeah.
And of course, Audrey Hepburn is the epitome of effortless charm, as she always is, and is simply great. The only thing you don't believe about her is that at the beginning, people are surprised. Like, hey, wait a minute, if you do something different, you could actually be attractive.
Oh.
Like, she's still Audrey Hepburn.
Right.
And I always thought that was the case, but I started looking into reviews of her films when she was young, and people didn't think she was attractive. They like, what a world that must have been.
She's like one of the most beautiful actresses of like all time.
Absolutely she is. So say you and I, so say we all, in Battlestar Galactica terms.
Okay.
And modern terms, but yeah, absolutely she is. But at the time, like Marilyn Monroe was the biggest thing, and she is quite a departure from that. So people felt she was like boyish and like not sexy, right? Because it's a very different look that she has. So
I guess by those standards, she doesn't quite fit the mold.
Yeah, and I always thought it was weird when in interviews she would talk about how everyone will kind of like bullied her about her looks. And it was like, you look like Audrey Hepburn. How hard could that have been? But of course, we're living in our society where like a very thin, elegant person is seen as a person that's beautiful.
French look is very in.
Right, and at the time, not so much. No. So, but either way, I think Funny Face still holds up. It's great. I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere right now. I just got it out of the old DVD cabinet, but
I love when you just stick your arm in the DVD cabinet and pull it out.
Yeah. So it holds up. Nothing great in the plot, but that's not what you're watching it for. You're watching it for these beautiful dance numbers, beautiful outfits, and beautiful scenery, and it delivers on all of those. So my thing of the week is the 1957 film, Funny Face.
Nice.
How about you? What's your thing of the week?
Well, it took me pretty much all day because work was insane to pick what I was going to do. So I read this book.
You mean it took you all day because you were working?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you're like, work was so busy, I couldn't do other things.
No, I literally didn't have a moment to think. So I picked one on the way home, which means I didn't get to do my new write-up thing that I usually do, my book report. But I am doing a nonfiction book this week.
Ooh.
I think my last two have been kind of suspenseful fiction books. But this one, it's called Educated. It's by Tara Westover. And this kind of...
Wait, did you have this author in the past?
I might have. It's a memoir. So it's written by the person that the book's about. And she comes from a survivalist Mormon family, and she leaves them and ends up going to college and eventually graduating from Cambridge University. So it's a really amazing story. It's kind of combines my love of cults and also really inspiring stories. And so I would recommend this book. It was a pretty quick read, and I felt like I just couldn't put it down because it was such a compelling story.
So this is all first person?
Yes, it's all first person.
And it is all a true story.
Yes. Names are changed. That's the only thing that's changed. One thing that I found really interesting is this is a family who they believe she described it as living in the woods, and they're survivalist Mormon, which is what they everify there.
Oh, that's a fun combination. What does that mean for her?
So it means that her father doesn't trust hospitals, education, the government, basically anybody.
And then she goes on to be a doctor.
She does.
Oh, that's quite the leap.
Yeah, I really enjoyed these stories of women kind of making it out of these extreme religion situations.
Yeah, because that's kind of the ultimate, I don't know if underdog story kind of diminishes it, but against all odds, right? Because I think there's nothing harder to overcome than the way you were brought up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she tells the story in 3 parts. The first part describes her life, so you get a really good idea of what her life in this place called Bucks Peak is in rural Idaho. They literally live in the mountains. And you get to meet her parents, and you kind of see how their whole world works. Basically, they hunt everything that they eat. Her mother sort of loosely homeschools them. And at one point, the author says, I had no education for the real world. There wasn't the things that kids are taught in real school. We were taught, how to talk to each other, and that's about it. So when she does actually have the opportunity to go to school, she realizes that nothing that she learned up to this point was useful in the real world, and basically has to study and take an equivalency test in order to get into university.
Right, that makes sense. I know I've gone to university with some people that were homeschooled, and they weren't in this crazy situation, and it was hard enough for them, so I can't imagine about this case.
School teaches you important coping lessons.
Very much so. And all the social stuff is
all the
one of the
social
biggest
stuff,
things.
yeah. And not having your mom there every second of the day to pad your experience, right?
Right.
It's learning how to be independent, and I think at base level, those are very important things to learn as a child.
I feel like either I've read this book, or you've already done it on this podcast, or maybe just when you were reading it, you told me a lot about it. Because all of this, I'm like, oh yeah, Educated by Tara Westover. I know about this.
It's a very popular book. It's from
I also work at a library,
it's from
so I'm
2018, and it's one that anytime anybody asks on Facebook for recommendations of books, before I even get there to recommend something that's nonfiction, somebody else or 2 other people have already recommended it. It's a lot of people's kind of big book that they loved.
Is there any talk about this being turned into a movie? Because it seems like every movie is just based on something else. We don't have original films anymore, and this seems like it would lend itself well to a good movie.
Not that I could find.
Starring Reese Witherspoon.
Not that I could find. I didn't see anything about the rights. So I didn't see anything on the internet about that. But I agree with you. This would be a very cool movie. So part 2 covers the author's studies at Brigham Young University, where she had taken the equivalency test and been able to be accepted into the program that she wanted to get into. And then her professors at Brigham Young pushed her to apply to a program that allowed her to study at King's College in Cambridge.
Cool.
Which is pretty neat for someone who had zero education. And throughout the book, you kind of see her adapting to the world, like to the outside world, from her tiny little insulated family life. And one of the things that she doesn't realize that she's doing is she gets an infected tooth. And she has no money for dental because she's a student and she's living off of scholarships, so she doesn't have any money to actually go to the dentist and get it fixed. And she doesn't realize it, but she refuses to ask for help. And this is something that her father ingrained in her at like a young age. It was like the outside world always wants something in return, and there's no such thing as charity, and like basically you're weak if you can't figure it out on your own. Like how to get your tooth fixed. So her church that she joins, which is not a survivalist Mormon church, offers to help her, and she finally breaks down and gets the help that she needs because it's also affecting her studies.
Oh, so, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's nice to see her learn some lessons and adapt really well to the outside world. So I would recommend this book if you would like an uplifting true story.
All right. Does she remain religious even if not Mormon?
Yes, I believe. I can't remember what the church she ends up joining is, but I think it's a less restrictive sect of Christianity.
All right. Well, you know how you can find out. You'll have to read the book. What's the book called again?
It's called Educated, and it's by Tara Westover. I'm pretty sure that this book is so popular that if you typed EDUCA into Google, it'll pop right up.
It's so popular, it was also covered on our 46th episode.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh.
But we can leave this in because you know what? We've been doing this for, 112-ish episodes? We're bound to repeat ourselves.
True. It is such a good book, too. Everyone should read it. Go read it.
There you go. A double recommendation.
A double recommendation. Double love. Doesn't that mean you lose in tennis?
Oh, love just means tied.
Yeah.
0 is love, yeah.
So, yeah, sorry for repeating myself. I didn't realize I should really check the show notes before I pick something. So, Indy, it's time. Can you tell us what we will be watching and talking about next week?
Yes, I can.
Great.
So we are going to be watching the 1944 film noir classic, Double Indemnity. Have you ever heard about this before?
I haven't. Please tell me more.
So like I said, I took my inspiration from your movie, A Simple Favor, and the two things I think that blends are the high fashion world of Funny Face mixed with the film noir of something like Double Indemnity.
Okay, well, I'm excited. I knew after you said Funny Face and you said both your picks had to do with the movie we did last week, I had a feeling it would be film noir.
Because I wanted to go there at some point, and I wasn't sure when to, so it just seemed like, here's an opportunity. I haven't made you watch anything in black and white in a while, so I feel like you're due for something like that.
I'm ready.
And also, I kept talking about earlier on in this podcast, like in our first 20 episodes, that this is kind of the road to Caligari, the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is one of my favorite movies ever. But we had to start with doing a little bit of horror, which we did with The Shining. There's a lot of aesthetic from Edward Scissorhands, and then you had to take a step further back and I think film noir would be the next step back. Then we might stop off in something like Fritz Lang's M, and then we could probably go all the way to the Weimar Republic and the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Okay.
But it's like a 3-year plan to get you to watch this movie.
Ooh, okay. I'm ready.
We're halfway there.
Wow.
So Double Indemnity is a movie from 1944. Like I said, it's a film noir. But it's also a maybe a psychological thriller would be the best way to describe it. It was directed by Billy Wilder, who has done... He's like one of the biggest filmmakers of all time, I think. Like you can go from Double Indemnity to The Lost Weekend, Sunset Boulevard, Sabrina with Audrey Hepburn. Oh. And he also did Love in the Afternoon with Audrey Hepburn, but that one's not as good. He did The 7-Year Itch, Some Like It Hot, The Apartment. We'll definitely be doing The Apartment sometime on this. The Front Page, and it just goes on and on. He's a real big-time director, especially through the 50s and 60s. This was kind of pretty early on in his career. He had done a few features by this point, but he wasn't like the huge name that he became.
Right.
And the screenplay was co-written with Raymond Chandler, who is probably the name for Pulp Fiction and film noir, who wrote Murder, My Sweet, The Big Sleep, The Long Goodbye, all those things with such good names. The Big Sleep, that's one of my favorite titles of any.
Really?
Oh, it's such a good one. The Long Goodbye as well, that's such a good title. And he did those Philip Marlowe novels and then movies, which a bunch of you out there, I'm sure, love. And when it came out, it was generally well received. The people who didn't like it were more cautious about the subject matter. Because they're like, ooh, we don't want that kind of stuff. It's too risque. By today's standards, like, no, yeah, 12-year-olds could watch this, no big deal.
Oh, that's funny.
But it's a different time. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, but did not win any. And in years after it came out, it really started to get more well-known. Before I continue on, maybe we should watch a trailer. Okay. And I'm going to give you the option of, do you want an original trailer from 44? Or do you want a modernized trailer that makes it look like a movie from today, but it is, of course, that movie?
I think I want to go with the original.
The chilling masterpiece from the pen of James M. Cain, Double Indemnity.
Me, Walter Neff, insurance agent. It all began last May. I was thinking about that dame upstairs and the way she had looked at me. And I wanted to see her again, close, without that silly staircase between us. How could I have known that murder can sometimes smell like honeysuckle?
I can't stand it anymore. What if they do hang me?
They're not going to hang you, baby.
It's better than going on this way.
They're not going to hang you. Because you're going to do it and I'm going to help you.
I'd like to move in on her right now, tonight. If it wasn't for Norton and his striped pants ideas about company policy, I'd have the cops after her so quick it'd make her head spin. Now, we know the Dietrichson dame is in it and somebody else.
Only I haven't got a single thing to go on, Keys.
He'll show. He's got to show. Sometime, somewhere, they've got to meet.
The finest come from Paramount Pictures. Comedies, dramas, musicals, mysteries, entertainment for everyone.
Okay.
Well, that really didn't tell you much at all.
No. I'm excited, though.
What do you
cool.
think?
I don't know. It seems like there's an unlikely romance.
Oh, perhaps.
And a murder.
Maybe.
And maybe a police investigation.
That's Edward G. Robinson. He's actually an insurance adjuster.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'm excited to see it.
Good. I'm excited as well. So I saw this once when I was probably like 17, 18 in my Film History 101 class. That's the only time I've seen it.
Oh.
And
that's a long time.
Yeah. I picked it because it might not be... Well, it's not my favorite noir. But I think it really typifies the genre. So this was made at a time when the term film noir didn't even exist.
Right.
Or if it did, Billy Wilder had never heard it before. So he was just making just a movie. And this was just the aesthetic of the time. And now we think of it as kind of like peak film noir. I think you could argue probably like film noir started in 41 with Maltese Falcon and probably ended in 58 with Touch of Evil, which I'd also probably like to do at some point. It's very good. And there's so many other great ones in it, but this just has like all of those hallmarks of what I consider a film noir to be. It has like a morally ambiguous anti-hero in the lead. It has a femme fatale who is, you're not sure if she's dangerous or in distress or maybe both.
Oh.
It has it doesn't have a detective. They usually have detectives, but this is an insurance adjuster who is essentially acting like a detective. It has someone really hard kissing. You know when they kiss in 50s movies and they just kind of smash their faces together? It looks painful.
It does.
I don't know how their teeth don't bang.
Didn't that happen in another movie? Psycho? Didn't they at one point kiss?
That was the style at the time.
Interesting.
It wasn't until the lake house that people moved into those like hundreds of mini little hamster kisses. That was gross. It also has a narrator. It's telling the story, and a lot of movies like this, they would start at the beginning. They're like, oh, I bet you're wondering how I got into this situation, and then he would tell the story.
Oh.
So it's another one of those, but it's the aesthetics I think that we'll look a lot at. The visuals are very dark and claustrophobic. The rooms feel like they're looming in on you. The lighting casts really long shadows, and that's often used to either conceal a person or express their emotions as well. So that's why I'm saying it can draw its roots to German Expressionism, which we will eventually get to, and I'll be so happy when that happens. But also the pressure. How do I talk about Caligari in just like an hour and a half? It's going to be tough. And there's a lot of kind of like psychosexual themes that were very risque at the time, but maybe not so much now. But we can kind of see the birth of a lot of modern thrillers can draw their roots back to a movie like Double Indemnity.
Interesting.
And I think you can definitely see a lot of the influences in A Simple Favor.
Okay, I'm excited to see a original film noir up against the one that we just watched.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, and you'll definitely be able to see a lot of links plot-wise. I don't want to point out what, because of course we're going to see it. And the style, of course, is much more toned down with modern stuff, but I think you can still see pieces of it, maybe in her wardrobe, less in the lighting and stuff, because that one was filmed in a very modern way.
Yeah, and that house, it's hard to do old-timey.
Yes.
With...
It's not a claustrophobic house.
No, with that big, bright, airy, modern house.
Unfortunately, like a lot of movies of the time, it's not the easiest to find by a lot of streaming services, at least for free, but you can rent it on Amazon or YouTube. If you go through your local library, you can watch it for free with an app called Canopy, with a K, so you can check that one out. Also, it'll be in the little link in the show notes, but hopefully you can find it somewhere. You should check your library, because I know at least the library here carries it on DVD, and I think because it is such a classic, such an influential film, you should be able to find it more easily at a library than a place like Netflix.
True. Very true.
So we are going to be watching Double Indemnity from 1944 for next week, and then we can discuss all the murder and twists and sexiness and cool hats
and hard
next
kissing.
time. Oh, there's going to be some hard kissing. Just grab them by the shoulders and just smash your face into them.
Oh, that's why you do that.
Yeah, that's what that's the only way I'm going to kiss from now on. I kiss like a detective.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, Okay, we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
From Paramount Pictures, you gotta see this film. It's real boffo. That's how they talk in the old trailers. Look at the gams on that one. They go all the way up.